2025 is due to be the most impactful year in the creative industry to date. And in today's episode of Design Ahead, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most interesting topics and products set to release over the next 12 months. So welcome back to Design Ahead with me, Jake Fernandes, and today we're going to be doing the third installment of our end of year roundup, where we're going to be kicking off the second two-part series looking ahead to 2025. So in the past two episodes, we took a look back at 2024 to see what were the most important topics and trends and products that have really shaped the creative industry over the past 12 months. And we definitely found some incredible things. Of course, the emergence of AI, we found experienced reality really taking shape, and products like Figma, Miro really dominating the markets. So if you haven't already checked out those videos, please give them a watch to give a bit of a recap to 2024. But as I said today, it's all about 2025. What's going to be coming up in the next 12 months? How do we prepare for it? What can we expect? Let's get into it. So in the same light as the 2024 roundups, we're going to be having two episodes in which we talk about three specific topics in each of them and give a bit of a tier ranking as well, just to add a bit of enjoyment and fun. And the first category is the most anticipated creative products of 2025. I think this is a really interesting category actually, because a lot of companies are holding their cards close to their chest and not really giving much away. I think there's two things to that. I think the fact that AI is rapidly increasing in importance and dominance in the industry, that these companies are struggling to really understand what's going to be coming out next. And it's almost like a reactive process. I think a lot of them have general plans, but it's difficult to know if they're going to be actioned in the next 6, 12, 18 months, depending on how fast AI can progress. And the other side is that there's a lot of blue sky opportunities. So companies don't really want to be putting out things to say that we're going to achieve this in the next 6 months, just for their competitors to latch onto that and then catch them up. So there's a lot of surprise releases I assume would be coming out of the next 12 months, as they have over the past 12 months. But our third place product is one that has been rumored for a few years now and we might see in 2025, and that's the Microsoft Surface Studio 3. So originally it was expected to release in 2023, but Microsoft have been very quiet around the Surface Studio. And for those of you who don't know what this is, it's almost like a combination of a laptop, computer and tablet all rolled into one. It's a very versatile product. It's touchscreen. You can sort of stand it up and use a keyboard and mouse if you need to, but there's a lot of ways in which you can use it in, a non-traditional sense of a laptop or a PC or even a tablet. And it is a really cool innovation with a lot of potential, but I think one of the things it's struggled with is widespread adoption. It's very expensive. The entry point is quite high if you want to get into the Surfaces. It's also it's not doing anything innovative that a laptop or PC could do. And I think a lot of the programs that we use are very much catered for mouse and keyboard, which gives another strength to the laptop or the PC. So, if I'm wireframing or creating some designs in InDesign or Figma, I would definitely opt to use a keyboard and mouse rather than a touchscreen like on a tablet. And that's why I think it's been quite difficult for the Surface Pro to really make an impact, because it is a really cool idea. There are a lot of useful features, but there's not a lot to go alongside it. And there aren't many use cases where it does outperform a laptop or PC. And I think ultimately it is a little bit ahead of its time right now. I think we haven't really got the workflows that would require something that is purely touchscreen. Of course, you can connect a mouse and keyboard, but at that point, you're kind of just using it as a laptop and not using it to its full potential. And that's why I think 2025 is going to be a very important year. People have been waiting for this for the past couple of years now, and it's kind of all eyes on Microsoft to see, are they going to release it, or at least release some updates about the progress of the Surface Studio 3? Or are they going to shelve the project or even can it completely? As I said, Microsoft haven't really said anything about the Surface Studio over the past couple of years, so it is quite expected that they are going to make an announcement one way or another about the future of the Surface Studio in 2025. Coming in at number 2 on the list is Adobe's AI integration. Now in 2024, we've definitely seen some incredible progress that they've made with the introduction of Adobe Firefly and progress on the generative tools within Photoshop, Illustrator, etc. And what we've sort of realized with this is that there's two areas of AI image generation going on here. There's the adaptive side, which is taking an existing image and adding to it through AI tooling. And there's the generating from the ground up side, which is providing a prompt and coming up with a brand new image. So we do have tools like Midjourney, which are really good at that ground up image generation. And of course, Adobe's introduction into that market with Firefly is fantastic. But one of the things that separates Adobe from the rest of the market is their image manipulation, editing tools through their creative suite like Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, etc. And that's where I think Adobe are going to start to hone in on. They've got the image generation through Firefly, but they need to capitalize more on the creative suite that they have. As I said, we've seen the introduction of generative AI in Photoshop, where you can sort of select an area, provide a prompt, and then maybe add in an aeroplane to a background, or change the color of the sky, or the way that the clouds look. And it is quite good at that, but I think one of the things it struggles with is understanding style or direction that was originally set by the creator. So as these AI models improve, it's only going to get better and better at understanding context and style, which means that the generative AI of adding to existing images is going to be a lot stronger. But it's also going to be able to generate brand new concepts off the back of that very, very accurately. And that's how the two worlds are kind of starting to collide in this middle ground. And I think as well, with image generation, we might go as far as video generation, to that new ideas versus adopting existing ideas and having a middle ground that allows you to create something truly innovative. The other side of it is that prompt engineering, it has to be very particular, especially when these models started out. If you wanted something to look a certain way, you basically needed to provide very detailed prompts. So creatives and photographers that really understand the language will excel at prompt engineering because they know exactly what to put in to get a certain result. But what we need to see more is the introduction for the average everyday user who isn't up to speed with the lingo, or just kind of has an idea in mind and they want AI to analyze that and get them something that represents it. I think we're going to see prompt engineering become easier and easier, whether that's through sort of AI understanding it better or the tooling to achieve that prompt engineering is improving. I think probably both will kind of collide in the center as well, but that's one thing over 2025 I think is going to happen a lot more, is prompt engineering is going to become easier and easier for your average everyday user. And the third side of this argument is that AI is there to help automate processes that don't require generation. If I'm trying to edit a video, for example, I don't want to be sitting there for ages just cutting up clips where the audio stops to get rid of gaps in content. I would like an AI tool just to go through and split that video up perfectly. And I do think there's a few tools out there doing things like that at the moment, but this is Adobe's ability to harness all of the creative aspects of their tooling, the image modifications and actions and different processes that a creative would use to create something, just finding ways to automate that and get rid of the busy work so that they can focus on the creative direction more. And in first place, the most anticipated creative product in 2025, I believe, will be the Meta Orion glasses. So in my 2024 review, I spoke a little bit about the demo that Meta put out for the Orion glasses. It was available to reviewers, tech bloggers, for them to kind of come in and try it and see what Meta were doing. And for those of you who didn't catch that, the Meta Orion is essentially Meta's version of the AR VR smart glasses. So we've got these Snapchat smart spectacles, and Meta are trying to do something within that industry. We've got very bulky VR headsets at the moment, and Meta kind of want to bring that into a more accessible frame. And like I said, they were released in demo capacity to a limited audience back in September 2024, which means 2025 is likely going to be their emergence in the consumer market. And personally, I think these are going to be revolutionary for the experience reality industry. When I talk about experience reality, I mean augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. I think that the headsets that are out there at the moment, as I said, are quite bulky. They're there for maybe 2-3 hour usage for gaming or pretty intense workflow optimizations, but there's nothing there for the average everyday person yet. Now, the last thing you kind of want to do, although you've seen videos of it online, is take the Apple Vision Pro and go out on a big walk around the block and order a coffee and do a bit of work, or, it's not really optimized for that. The look isn't there, the battery life isn't there, and it's going to hurt your head carrying that thing around for a few hours. But that's, I think, where the smart glasses come in, is that they're essentially just an evolution of the smartphone. You're not going to be using them for gaming, or you're not going to be using them for pretty intense work. You're going to be using it to check social media or take photos or keep up to date with the news. And of course, we'll see more augmented reality things in there, like being able to direct you down streets that you don't know. It's almost like one of these science fiction videos where you put on the glasses and you can see adverts and pop-ups and things that direct you to places or show you this new shop that's just opened and gives you information. I think a lot of those are very much hyper reality, but the smart glasses are there to help in everyday life, and I think that is going to be something it will really excel at. You know, we kind of look towards smart contact lenses potentially in the future as well, so you don't have to have the glasses, but as of now, I think smart glasses are going to be revolutionary and probably will, over time, replace the smartphone. I think at the minute it might work alongside it, but definitely over time it will probably replace smartphones. And bringing it back to 2025 and Meta, again, from what I've seen from the reviewers and tech bloggers out there in 2024, these glasses, if they're released in a pretty stable state in the consumer market and live up to the hype, are going to completely revolutionize the game. So category number 2, the top creative technologies of 2025. So bold experiments, transformational breakthroughs, what technologies are going to be out there for creatives? And kicking it off at number 3, we have AI-powered filmmaking. So bringing it back to AI-generated content, it's been fantastic at generating text, image, and sound for the most part, but video is an area which it's lacked in. Now, the complexity of creating a video is obviously the big issue with AI, because it's not as easy as creating a picture or a sound. You need to create a series of pictures that are meaningful in such a way that they flow perfectly together. And it is quite impressive still at this point. I mean, I've seen a few adverts, I've seen a few creations online that are really staggering, and in some cases are very hard to decipher what's real and what's AI. And that's why I believe in 2025, there is going to be a huge boom in video AI content. And again, going back to that conversation I was just having with Adobe, where you've got the generative side and the adaptation, you've also got those tools that need to come in to help along the way. So as I mentioned, if I'm creating a video and I just want to cut out all of the points in which the audio stops, so I've got no gaps, I would have to do that manually, but through AI, we could just pop it in and get it to sort of cut all those clips out and delete them at the same time, so that I've then got the content where I'm speaking to the camera and I can focus on that. And there are so many other jobs that would need to go into a video editing process, like color grading or making sure that the framing is correct, zooming, all of these things that could very easily be done by AI to get rid of the busy work. And especially if it can understand your creative direction, it can try its best to emulate that. And it might just take a bit of refining from the person's side, that AI does a lot of the heavy lifting and you're there to just direct it and make sure it's doing it correctly. Again, I would like to see a lot of adaptation to existing film and video. So if there is a shot that maybe I didn't like something in the background, or I didn't like the sky, I could use AI to change that. And I think it is getting there, especially in some of the more modern technologies and industry standard technologies, but becoming more consumer friendly and bringing that price down really, and being able to access that as your average everyday person and not restricting it to Hollywood professionals or people with large budgets. So it's one to surely keep an eye out for in 2025. I think there are some fantastic applications that Adobe or Runway will likely introduce in their suites, and it'll become a lot more accessible for your average everyday creator. So second on this list is generative music design. And this is one that I'm personally very excited for as a producer that spends hours on hours trying to get the correct sound or trying to get something sounding the way I want it to. I think it's the biggest struggle for any producer or songwriter out there. It's, you've got the exact idea in your mind and you're going through samples on samples or presets of presets to try and capture exactly what you want, and you still can't find anything. So generative music design for me would be a huge benefit. I think there are the guys out there that are sound design specialists who are able to go and create a sound that they want, or they're able to manipulate it in such a way. But for me, I am more of a visionary. I have an idea of what I want to achieve, and I struggle to really get there sometimes. I'll labor over a song for days on end, just trying to get a synth sounding right, or trying to get a track in a certain direction, or it feels a little bit empty here and I can't figure out why, and I'm trying to fix it. I think a lot of people who are able to do that perfectly will, use these technologies to get them there quicker. But for me, it's a big barrier. And guys who are very much like casual producers will be able to churn out songs in a much better fashion. No, it'll be a lot quicker, it'll be a lot more accurate, and you're not kind of stuck there thinking, my God, I just can't get this to sound right, and then abandon the project, which I've done tens and tens of times before. So you have got tools out there like Ozone, which use AI to master tracks in a certain way. So they might take a reference point and be able to manipulate the sound so that the master can hit the right luffs, or it can EQ it in a certain way, provide, put limiters on there and master it so it produces the track in the direction that you're intending it to go in. And you've also got technologies like AIVA, which I'm still yet to use and probably am not pronouncing anywhere near correctly, but that's all about generating sounds through AI, and I think that's the really interesting thing. So if you've got tools out there like Serum, or if you've got sample libraries that are generating brand new sounds as and when you prompt it to, I think that's really, really exciting, and there's going to be even more opportunities for producers to create new sounds and create innovative things because they aren't spending 8 hours a day flicking through to find a correct snare drum sound. And in first place, a very interesting topic that I think we're going to be talking a lot more about is holographic interfaces. Now, long gone are the days that holographic technology was science fiction. Of course, if you cast your minds back to 2012 Coachella, we saw that holographic 2-pack, and it kind of took all of the headlines. No, it was crazy to see this holographic 2-pack on stage performing at Coachella, and everyone was like, wow, this is insane to see this technology available at such an early stage. But fast forward 12 years, we're now 2024, and we haven't really seen much adoption of that, but it's taken shape in very interesting ways, and I think it's going to become a lot more focused on the consumer market. So as I said, the big problem is the entry point is very high, so your average everyday person isn't able to use holographic interfaces, of course. The technology to show them and demonstrate the capabilities is, of course, another price point. So even if you design a great holographic, you're not going to be able to show that off if you don't have the money for the technology. But what I think it's going to be very helpful for is people working within 3D spaces. So, your 3D modelers or architects, if you're able to see that image in a real space and manipulate it in real time, that is going to be 100 times more powerful than doing that on a laptop. Just being able to visualize it and almost have it quite tangible is going to be super, super helpful, because you're not going to have to print it out and see what it actually looks like in real life when you compare it to what it is on the screen. And that's why I think, these creative jobs are going to be a lot more streamlined with this holographic technology if it's able to be introduced. And I think 2025 is the perfect opportunity to do so. You've got AI really powering through. A lot of new technologies are able to be adopted. The price points and entry points are coming right down. So hopefully we see something emerging in the next 12 months. And the third and final topic for today will be the best creative environments that people will use in 2025. And in third place, it's remote collaboration hubs. Again, going back to my 2024 review, I stated that remote collaboration was an essential feature for any industry standard tool. 2023 was that year where we needed to figure out if everyone was going to go back into the office full time, but remote working is definitely here to stay, and if anything, is just going to become more and more popular. So for creatives, of course, we've got tools like Figma, we've got Miro, Mural. There are all of these online collaboration aspects that allow you to see other people in real time. You can edit on the same document at the same time. Even going to Microsoft Word, you can edit the same Word document or PowerPoint or Excel sheet. So that collaboration is absolutely essential. And I think in 2025, we're going to see even more tools adopt it. One of the things I'd like to see personally is collaboration within Premiere Pro, for example. So being able to edit the same video file at the same time would be fantastic, especially, if you're putting together quite a long piece. You might have one editor doing the first 10 minutes, another editor doing the next 10. So instead of having segregated files, you could all jump into the same one and chop and change as you go along. But we're also likely to see some of these tools expand into more areas. For example, Figma, of course, started with a wireframing and prototyping tool, expanded into the online whiteboarding tool with FigJam, and has now got Figma Slides, which is their rival to PowerPoint. And as they expand with these collaborative tools, I think they could start to move into the print market and create something a little bit like InDesign, or something more appropriate for marketers and graphic designers. One of the best things I think about Figma that isn't spoken enough about is that it's a vector-based program, which means that you can essentially create logos and anything like SVGs that you would usually use Illustrator for, but Figma is a perfect tool to do so. So expanding into these other areas that are more appropriate for graphic designers rather than necessarily UX designers is something I expect Figma to do a lot more of. And again, if you're putting together some marketing materials like posters or booklets, it'd be really cool to have graphic designers, content designers, and marketing specialists all involved in the same file on a Figma-based tool, for example. Second place on the list is AI co-creation. And again, I did speak a little bit about this before, but I want to dive into it a bit more here. One of probably the biggest issues that I think a lot of people are facing right now is the threat that AI is going to completely replace the creative process. So photography, or generating images or logos or icons. Everyone's quite worried that people are just going to go straight to AI and generate something from scratch, and that's going to be it. But what I think the movement is going to be in 2025 is more embedding themselves within the creative process rather than replacing the humans in it. It's that co-creation aspect. It isn't replacing the creation. It's there to help. It's there to assist and be a collaborator. There are so many pain points within creative processes. You know, for me, I sometimes struggle to come up with that original idea generation or the specific execution of it. You know, I might struggle to think what this is going to look like, then get to that point, know exactly what it's going to look like, and then think, God, how do I even get to that point? And that's where I think AI is going to be very valuable. It's going to be helpful for sort of on-the-fly ideas. You know, if you're coming up with something, you can feed it some ideas into a mood board, and then it could spit something out in ways that you haven't really thought of before. And then you can start to see, right, let's go with that idea, start to design it out, and it kind of comes in and helps you with the parts that you're not familiar with or you're not sure on how to do. No, it definitely shouldn't be replacing you. It should be there to help you achieve your goal in much quicker time. So what I think it needs to do is understand visual context, and this borders almost into artificial general intelligence, because understanding context is a fundamental part of that. But as soon as it can understand style and context and really get a grasp of what you're going for, it isn't just spitting things out based on a call and response feedback. It's understanding the creative vision, the direction, and helps you as a co-creator. So that's why I can see the Adobe Suite, for example, or Figma, even Midjourney as well. Hopefully they can have some more image adaptation features in the next year, and see what 2025 brings within that space. And number one, what will be the biggest creative environment of 2025? And for me, it's no and low code platforms. So one of the biggest issues for a lot of UX UI professionals is that we're fantastic at prototyping and setting the vision, but when it comes to implementation through development, we don't necessarily have the skills that specialized developers do. So for me, I'm nowhere near an expert in HTML and CSS. I understand how it's made up, I understand the limitations and the specific ways that you need to build things, but when it comes to maybe building a site from scratch, that's where I would definitely struggle, especially in such a small timescale. But the issue with prototyping at the minute is that, yes, you can kind of fake through a click-through, but it's not as intuitive, and especially if you're trying to integrate with maybe a database or have some call and response with the data in there, it's not great because it's going to be very predefined. And that's why no and low code platforms are fantastic, because they have the ability to create an intelligent experience that users can come in, put some real data, and get a response out the other end. They aren't necessarily focused in on putting in certain terms that have to be put in for the prototype's sake. They can put their own things in there and see what will come out the other end. And it also helps you to test the back end and the data behind it. So these platforms are great for rapid prototyping and quick development, because UXers can kind of come in there and have no to little understanding of code, but still be able to put together a demo that is able to be actioned on and user tested and prove that something is going to work the way that you said it was. And over the past few years, we've seen tools like Webflow and Squarespace put in these low-code environments, What I would like to see and expect to see in 2025 is the evolution of these environments and probably the integration with tools like Figma. I think ultimately, if we can create a low code or no code environment that UXers can come in and use on a day-to-day basis in that rapid way that Figma, you come into a Figma prototype, you can change the color in 3 seconds, you can move everything around very quickly. If we can do that in no to low code, I think that is probably going to replace prototyping. And so that brings part 1 to a close. So thank you so much for watching. I will be releasing part 2 with another 3 areas for 2025 in the next week or 2. But for now, please drop a subscribe if you're on YouTube, or drop a follow wherever you get this podcast. Leave a rating and check out my short form content at Let's Design Ahead on TikTok and Instagram. And for now, I'll see you guys later.